Symbiotic Souls might just be the most broken boots on the patch, and there's no sign of them getting nerfed soon. Let's talk about it. The first person I have to shout out is Kerberos. He's a top laner on EUS, and if I hadn't seen his tweet regarding the strength of these boots on Aurora, I wouldn't have tried them out on her and then on a bunch of other champions. He even inspired a bunch of other people to try them out, whether they saw his tweet or not, whether they want to credit him or not. He's the first person that I saw talk about this. Let's dive into all the changes that Riot introduced into the new season and why I think it made Symbiotic Souls and when they upgrade Synchronized Souls the best boots on the patch. Coming into season 2025, there were a bunch of system overhauls that impacted the tempo of the game. Changing things like Home Guard and Death Guard, changing TP, adding feats of strength, even adding Otacon. All of these things had a major impact on the way the game flows. So let's go in depth on some of those changes. When it comes to Home Guard, Riot changed it so now you gain Home Guard every time you recall or every time you respawn, regardless of if you've been killed by an enemy champion or executed. Home Guards are a little bit weaker in the early game, but Death Guards are extremely powerful. You gain them all the way up until you reach your tier 1 tower. Which means if you die in the early game and you don't have TP, you can easily reach your wave within 15 to 20 seconds. And when it comes to TP in the early game, sure, it has a slightly shorter channel time, but you have to actually travel the distance of the teleport, which can take up to 8 seconds depending on that distance. And whatever is being TP'd to is not invulnerable, minions, wards, and even Zac blobs. So if you take an even trade in the early game and then want to try to base TP back to hold the wave, most of the time, the enemy laner is going to be able to get that wave out and under your tower before you get back in time. Lastly, let's touch on feats of strength, which shifted the way the game is played around objectives and towers. I personally am definitely seeing a lot more map movement in my solo queue games, and regardless of what your view is of the actual strength of the boots when they get upgraded, it is impacting the tempo of the game. So where does Symbiotic Souls fit into all of this? After feats were initially introduced, a lot of the boot upgrades were seen as either really strong or just straight up OP, causing all of them to get nerfed except for Swifties, Greaves, and Souls. My thoughts after a lot of testing is that the Souls were always strong, it just took the boots in the game getting so many adjustments for people to really start giving them some attention. The TP change also means that a lot more people are taking Battle Sums top lane, but that still results in a loss of tempo from having no TP in some parts of the game. This is where Symbiotic Souls comes into play. Symbiotic Souls do two major things for you. First, it gives you empowered recall, which drastically impacts your tempo in the game. Being able to fast shove waves into a 4-second base is one of the biggest tempo advantages you can have on your opponent. The other thing is after you've traveled enough distance to upgrade them into Synchronized Souls, you not only gain the 45 increased MS, the empowered recall, but an additional 45 MS out of combat. Paired with the enhanced Home Guard after 14 minutes, these boots allow you to make plays anywhere on the map at will. Another thing to note is that I initially saw Kerberos taking Ignite in every lane that he played with Aurora when he would go Symbiotic. This initially made me do the testing with Ignite as well, and my conclusion is that Ignite feels good if I'm going to go Symbiotic and I basically have a TP replacement in my boots, but it is not a requirement. You can still go teleport on any of these champions and go Symbiotic still. Sure, if you're playing an AP champ, you might lose out on some damage from Sork boots. Or if you're playing a more bruiser style champ, you might lose out on the defensive stats from your boots. But it does not drastically change the way your champion plays. You just gain a lot of tempo and you can start doing other things on the map with the boot upgrade. You know, and for me personally, I need to still do some more testing with Symbiotic. I need to test it taking TP and going Symbiotic. I need to test it with different style champions like bruisers and tanks. I need to test it more in scrims and maybe even in some matches and official games. So I would say that in 2 to 4 weeks, we'll see if my opinions change, but there's still some things that need to be figured out and tested completely. But as of right now, I think Symbiotic Souls and Synchronized Souls are the best boots in the game. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.